A Silent Voice is the most underrated animated movie of all time. Now, obviously, that's not entirely true. With a score of 9.09 on Mal, A Silent Voice is very popular. However, A Silent Voice has almost been completely overshadowed by the release of Your Name, one of the most visually stunning titles to ever be released. But I would argue that A Silent Voice was more universal in theme, conveyed a deeper message, and was stronger in every single way in terms of story. The story starts with Shoya's fight against boredom. He, like many young kids, is only focused on what's in front of him, unable to grasp emotions unless they are his own or through his own experience. When Shoko comes along and her inability to hear is discovered, something clicks inside Shoya's head. His video game goes off like a spark to signify that he doesn't identify Shoko as a potential friend or classmate, but as an alien subject made for his experiments and endeavors against boredom. Although cruel, this portrays the fact that as humans, we are not always able to understand those who are different, especially as kids. Although it's not a pass for Shoya's behavior, his lack of life experience and his aggressive and curious nature are what initiates the bullying from the beginning. That, along with being pushed by the laughter and frustration of his fellow classmates, Shoya crosses a line that is no longer schoolyard bullying, but borderline abuse. However, he is not the only culprit. Because Shoko cannot hear, many of her other classmates' deeds go unpunished because they are not so upfront in their behavior. The way the series tackles bullying with both main characters is intriguing because both characters are subject to it on a large scale at a very young age. It takes Shoya getting bullied to realize his actions and how they were wrong from the start. Although just like in real life, sorry is never enough. A Silent Voice is cluttered with apologies and realizations from Shoya realizing how awful he was, to both mothers constantly apologizing for their children's actions. Yet apologies mean nothing to the outside world. People still think badly of Shoya, Shoko is still ostracized, and many of the other characters deal with their fair share of issues as well. However, the movie illustrates that through effort and actions, you can convey your true feelings and finally learn to communicate with people who are different from you or who may think differently. As the characters in A Silent Voice come to find out, though, there are a lot of miscommunications that go into fully understanding somebody. In the scene where Shoko tries to confess her love for Shoya, he mistakes "I like you" for something about the moon. This has to do with her lack of speaking and her inability to hear, along with the fact that Shoya can't picture Shoko being attracted to him. Hell, to him they aren't even friends yet, because he's still trying to earn that right. Shoya is unable to see the fact that Shoko feels the way he feels about her exactly. They share the same childhood grief and pessimistic outlook that the other would be better off without them there. This is shown through the fact that many times in the movie, they fail to help each other up. They barely miss each other's hands. The characters are constantly falling and jumping off bridges, giving the idea and the thought that death or suicide is always looming. The thought, too, that Shoko knows what's best for Shoya and vice versa is just utterly wrong because the other person wasn't thinking that way to begin with. It takes these near-death experiences for them to realize that they no longer need to make up anything to one another. Instead, it's put perfectly into context when Shoya asks Shoko to help him live, meaning that their friendship gives him purpose in life and the bond that they share makes life worth living. The thing that A Silent Voice conveys so well is that it's never too late to right a wrong and that everything you do has consequences, no matter how minuscule. The way the characters are never sure of their own emotions and the desire to justify them, along with the fact that from one scene Shoya might be having a great time to instantly becoming depressed and wondering if he deserves happiness, is one of the strongest points in the film. Life isn't a series of low lows and high highs, and that's the point that comes across strongly in this film. Just like in life, you can go from having a great time to one of your life's biggest tragedies. I think that that's something people can relate to on a personal level, along with the bullying, because in the age of the internet, and just as a school kid in general, everyone has been bullied once or twice in their life regardless of the degree. Also appreciate the concept of death and suicide and how the characters were curious of what life would be like for others if they didn't exist. Because regardless of if you're suicidal or not, everyone has thought of at one point or another what life would be like if they weren't here. And this is what makes the film relatable. It touches the heartstrings and topics rarely talked about in any media. I walked away from this film with a sense of loss and sadness, along with the hope of new beginnings that Shoya and Shoko finally receive. I would strongly recommend this film to anyone who is dealing with the issue of bullying or depression. I would also highly suggest that you check out the manga. If you're like me and like a more closed story, you'll be highly satisfied. The manga extends on Shoko and Shoya's relationship. It adds context to characters otherwise questioned in the movie. Also, it pertains an arc that's not covered. Overall, I would rate this movie a 9.5 and the manga a 10. I would recommend both to whatever medium you prefer. However, if you're new to manga, I would highly suggest getting into this one, as it is only a 7-volume series. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.